Just to talk a little bit about our cover crop project, just give you a little overview. In 2019, we received a USU Extension grant to look at cover crops throughout the state. Just a little background, some of you that are kind of new to cover crops, I mean, sometimes they wonder, what is a cover crop? And this is explanation I got out of a publication from Idaho. Basically, any plant or crop grown to provide living ground cover that is planted with or in between rotations of the primary cash crop. And there's a body of research and things going on and evidence coming through that there are some benefits to cover crops, as we're not really seeing them right now in the dry land situation. But in other areas and in irrigated, we're seeing a big benefit. And here's some of the benefits that there are. The other thing we're finding that we're doing is we've been promoting this through soil health workshops throughout the state. And in those workshops, there's a lot about cover crops. And what we're finding is producers are interested in wanting to start doing cover crops, but they've got a lot of questions. You know, what to plant, when to plant, how to terminate, what will it cost, what's the short-term benefits, how to incorporate livestock grazing into it, how to incorporate cover crops in our current crop rotations. And so we've got a limited amount of information out on our website, but we'd like to get more. So we started this project, like I said, in 2019. We've established 3 plots, one here in Sanpete County, one in Davis County, and one in Cache County. And we'll look at each one of those plots today. We've included 5 warm season plots and 5 cool season plots replicated 4 times. So if you're looking more at a time when you want to have a cover crop during the heat of the summer, we're looking at that. Or if you're more looking at incorporating it into the cool in the spring or in the fall, or both. So we're looking at both of those options. And what we're going to evaluate is mainly forage quality, soil health, and crop management, how to incorporate it, and some grazing into this. This is the seed mixes. We started with a control, and the control is basically some annual forages that you normally would use. So in our control, we have a warm season grass, which is Sudan grass this year. We'll take a look at that. Our cool season grasses have been small grains. We've done some winter grains with that. And that's what people are normally planting. When we're looking at adding, so mix number 1 would be what we have in the control, but then we're going to add a legume. So we've got in the warm season, WS is warm season, is the hairy vetch. And the cool season, we added Austrian winter pea. That's mix number 1. The mix number 2 is everything in mix number 1, plus we're going to add more. We're going to add, in our warm season, we added a buckwheat. In our cool season, we added a daikon radish. Then we added more. So if you want to go a little, the next step was mix number 3. It's everything in mix number 2, but we've added in the warm season, we added a daikon radish. In the cool season, a purple top turnip. And then in the mix number 4, we've added everything in mix number 3, plus we call this the kitchen sink. In the warm season, we've got 10 or 11 seeds in this mix, and in our cool season crop, we've got 9 seeds in this mix. So we're going to add more. So we want to look at it from minimal, adding a legume to what you're already doing, and then adding each step a little bit more and seeing the difference. Okay.
Today, we're here at the Sustainable Agriculture Education Center. This was an old turkey research farm that USU and the local turkey industry work together on to help the local turkey industry in their research questions and production methods. Since then, it has been converted into this Sustainable Ag Center, and we have been doing research projects as well as demonstration projects to showcase sustainable agriculture in central Utah. Today we're going to talk about our cover crop research project. We have 2 acres behind me here that is set out for crop research and cover crop research right now. This project started in 2019 and is ongoing. We've got cool season cover crops, warm season cover crops, and we want to go look at those and show you what we've got going. I'm now standing in the middle of the plot, where on my left we have the warm season cover crops that we planted in the middle of June, and on my right are the cool season cover crop plots that we planted late last fall. They overwintered, came up, and then after they were mature, we turned cattle in here to graze them down, and we are about ready to re-drill in new cover crop seed in about a month for fall cool season cover crops. So you can see the difference between the two currently. This cool season cover crop was up growing really well until we turned the cows into them, but you can see that it's been grazed down, and we're getting ready to redo that. A couple things that we noticed in the cool season cover crops is that in our 3-way mix of small grains, the triticale came in quite well, overwintered well, grew well, and probably became the most dominant grain in this mix. We did have a bit of barley that overwintered and did okay, and some wheat, but mostly the triticale did about the best. The other thing we noticed is the pea that we had in this mix came in quite well in some areas and did quite well. The rest of the mixes that we put in, the seed mixes that we put in, did not do very well. We're not sure, maybe that we were too late in the fall when we planted them, and that they didn't get enough root in the ground before winter came, and probably winter killed is kind of what we thought. So this next year we're going to revamp this, and we're going to plant, instead of the end of September, we're going to plant the middle of August to get that growth that we need before the killing frost. Usually in this area we're just under 6,000 feet above sea level, so it's a little cooler, and so we're thinking we need to have that time frame to get it in before the first frost, usually in late September, early October. The other major problem that we had in the cool season plots is this critter right here, prickly lettuce. It seems to have a pretty good seed bank here. It came in really well, competed really well against a lot of our cover crop seeds, and seemed at most areas kind of out-competed. Even though we did treat Roundup before we planted to make sure we got a good kill on everything, I think there's a lot of seed in this ground that's giving us some trouble. So we're hoping that this late planting earlier in the fall will do us a little better job of getting out competing some of these weeds, these annual weeds that we're dealing with. As you can see on the plots, these cool season plots that we allowed livestock to graze, we had 13 head of cattle, yearling cattle in here for about a week, and what they did is laid down a lot of organic matter, as you can see, on their rear ends, but also on some of the forage. Instead of eating it, especially some of this was getting a little old, they weren't quite grazing it, but they did knock it down and provide a lot of armor on the soil some nutrients in the soil spread pretty evenly throughout the plots. So we're pretty pleased with what we did with the livestock, and we think that's going to help in the future with our soil health. Now I'm in our warm season plots. This is the control plot. Control has Sudan grass. That is the grass mix that we started with, and so that is the control. So it's just Sudan grass. You can see we're getting a bit of kochia, annual kochia in here, and some red root pigweed. But because it's so thick and growing vigorously, it is starting to outcompete some of that, and I think we're going to get a really good stand. This was planted in the second week of June, and right now it's already up past my thigh, almost to my waist. This is plot number 2. We again have the Sudan grass in this plot, but we also have hairy vetch, a legume that can fix nitrogen. What I'm finding is the Sudan grass is growing very well, but kind of out-competing the hairy vetch, and so it's kind of spindly and small leaves, but it is throughout this plot and is a nice addition to the Sudan grass. In addition to the Sudan grass, the hairy vetch, we also have another plant in here, buckwheat. So in the warm season, we added buckwheat as a broadleaf weed, or broadleaf plant that will dig a deep taproot and improve this mix a little bit. This is seed mix number 3. So in addition to the Sudan grass, the buckwheat, and the hairy vetch, we've added a daikon radish to this mix. You see the radish is starting to form. For some reason it seems like whatever insect it is putting little pinholes in here and kind of knocking it back a little bit, but the idea is for this to dig a deep taproot into this and scavenge nutrients, as well as aerate the soil and dig down into the soil, opening up soil pore spaces for subsequent crops. This is our 4th and final plot, and we call this one the kitchen sink plot, where we put in the Sudan grass and everything we had in the other plots, and then we added more and more broadleaves plants, more legumes, and so this has 11 different grass and legume species in this mix, and we're going to see how well that does compared to the others. If it's better to have multiple seed mixes or a few seed mixes. We're going to do some testing on that to see and how they outcompete with the weeds, if more is better. So I'm glad you could come and visit us here in Ephraim, and hope this COVID gets over so we can all see each other actually out here on the ground. But until then, take care.